Welcome, everybody. I'm John Priestland, amongst other things, the chair of the GIRI Technology Working Group. I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, setting the scene, and then you're going to hear from 4 best practice casebook participants, and the message being the technology is being used and is being used successfully to reduce errors in the real world. It's not abstract, it's for real. So the Technology Working Group, it's one of a number of GIRI groups. We bring together the problems and the solutions. We bring together quality managers and construction practitioners concerned with improving quality with technology providers. We meet via Teams once a month, last Thursday now of every month. So please do let us know if you'd like to join the Technology Working Group. What do? We talk about tools and techniques and needs and opportunities, and we produce reports. So the story so far before today is we've produced 3 reports in 2023, 2024, 2025. Guess what? This is the 2026 report today. We produced a report looking at the whole essence of how technology could be used to reduce errors in design and construction. We went back to the original GIRI research that came up with 17 most prominent causes of error. That's the 2016 report, now more than 10 years old as GIRI is. The 17 categories of error are on the chart on the left-hand side, and we've matched those up with the categories of construction technology that came from the work of the CTEC Club to see where the categories of error best match up with the technology in question. And that allowed us to come up with 9 categories of technology most likely to be able to reduce error. And I'll run through those very briefly. We can use technology as checking technology, BIM checkers, schedule checkers, data checkers, or checklists. We can use technology to automatically generate design configurators or schedules, automated schedule systems. We have workflow engines that capture and manage processes, avoiding errors or delays between steps. We have visualization systems that allow virtual reality or augmented reality or digital rehearsals. Collaborative and communication tools, allowing tasks to be coordinated better and with better interface management. Computer vision, allowing work to be captured and checked automatically. IoT sensors, allowing real-time data collection. Digital setting out tools like the robot on the front cover of this year's report. Live layout information from the field, linking it with digital models and avoiding errors on the ground in terms of the different trades working together, and document management systems. And we found for the 2024 report, we were already finding additional categories. And so it is with the best practice casebook this year, there are additional categories, but focusing on those technologies that are most likely to make a difference, that's kind of a good starting point. Last July, we produced a report on the use of AI. Of course, since everybody won't read the report, they'll stick it into ChatGPT. We produced a summary, 60-word summary of the report in ChatGPT. But a better summary would be that AI will transform construction, but trust is an issue. Adoption today is quite limited. Copilots, gated GPT models, isolated pilots for non-conformance reporting or requirements management. But AI is coming big time. Biggest error reduction gains are in planning, design, project management, quality control, compliance, and human error. And trust needs to grow through risk assessments, clear responsibilities, and robust assurance processes. And I hope I'm whetting your appetite to go onto the GIRI website and read some of these reports, which takes us on to our work with best practice casebooks. So this is the report we produced in November 2024. And what we were trying to do was to show that technology doesn't just exist in an abstract way in our reports and in our conversations, but it's being used, and to share where it's being used successfully, both to give indications as to where that success is happening and to encourage people to try and adopt, because it really does work. And today we're launching a second research report, a best practice casebook, all new, 13 real-world case studies focusing on digital tools and emerging technologies, practical applications on live projects, measurable benefits, a range of stakeholders from clients, contractors, consultants, and tech providers. We're looking for repeatable impact, not just one-off successes. We're sharing practical lessons and transferable approaches, and we're aiming to help turn the technology into real operational improvements. There is a QR code you can stick your phone at to download the report, but we'll also post the link in the chat. And we have 4 case studies. 4 of the 13 companies and teams are presenting today. We have a range of largely building projects. It's interesting that the casebook is more full of building projects and infrastructure projects, and there were fewer projects that were actually demonstrating actual AI implementation than I expected. That's just a couple of observations. What I've said to each of the presenters is you've got a maximum of 10 minutes, but there's a gold star badge if you manage it in 8. There will be a klaxon and a horn that goes off around that time, but I'm sure they're all well set up to fit within their time. And if we do, that will allow us 10 to 12 minutes at the end for questions and any additional comment. So Susan, if it's okay and there's no further ado, I'm going to flip the slide. I'll run the slide deck from here and hand over to Luke and David to talk about 300 Manor Road. The technology provider is Sablono, the contractor is Morgan Sindall. So 3, 2, 1, over to you, David and Luke.
Thanks, John. Thanks for the opportunity to be involved, and thanks to those in attendance. So this was the first project we worked on with Morgan Sindall, going back a few years now, 2023. Nowadays, we've got a number of live schemes running across education, student accommodation, commercial and residential. But this high-rise residential scheme at the time posed some challenges, and the delivery team were looking for ways to kind of ensure smooth and reliable delivery that didn't necessarily involve kind of increasing headcount, which is often the kind of approach. So David Williams from Morgan Sindall, one of the senior delivery leads in the project, has kindly agreed to give some time to talk to us about what they did. So I'll hand over you to David to introduce yourself and walk us through it.
Thanks, Luke. Yes, I'm David Williams, Senior Project Manager for Morgan Sindall. So we use Sablono on the 300 Manor Road project, which was a 355 apartment residential scheme, and with a 33-story tower, you can see there in the photo. When we first started this project, it was probably one of the largest construction project which kind of Morgan Sindall Construction had done. And we were looking at how we had the challenge, I suppose, of how to track, control and monitor over 50,000 site activities, both on site and off site. And that's where we reached out to Sablono to assist with that problem. I think we are quite passionate about how we best make use of data. I think the industry is very bad at what we actually use the data for. So we're really passionate at how we could control that data. So that's where Sablono came in, which basically allowed us to source real-time data on the project, real-time that me and my delivery team could best make use of. And also it assisted, obviously at the time in 2023, there was a lot going on with the Building Safety Act and changes and the likes. So we obviously had quite a lot of nervous clients and stakeholders. So through this process, we were able to capture a lot of our off-site manufacturing processes, particularly to do with fire barriers in the facade. So in that unitized facade, we had a lot of fire barriers, as you can imagine. They get captured in the factory over it was often Europe where they were made, these panels. And obviously to save us going out there every week, all week, keeping on top of them, we actually managed to link our off-site manufacturing process with Sablono. So we're able to give visibility to all stakeholders to map that process from first concept of that delivery panel in the factory being made through to the final panel assembly before they put all the panels together and encapsulated all the open state cavity barriers and the likes. We were able to capture all that all the way through onto site, install on site, and then the fire cavity barriers, which then went around and installed on site. So we're able to map that whole process as a one to kind of provide confidence, really good visual displays, monitoring throughout each QA step throughout the build. And I think the great thing about that was that focus on quality and the quality processes, whatever that may be, whether it be facade, fit out, frame, whatever that might be. Ultimately, it comes down to you focusing on quality and the quality of each process, and out of that quality assurance process, you then get a start date for that activity and an end date. So you're able to make best use of that data. So focusing on quality data, then you can map it to your program data, and you can also map it to your commercial elements of the project. So we basically, to make best use of data, that would enable us to do S-curves, short-term programming. Everything was live data, how everything was progressing, both off-site, on-site, and also commercially. We're able to obviously assign a monetary value to each one of these activities and automatically populate all of the monthly valuations and the likes, and investing we were doing as part of the time of the project. So it was a real kind of example of how you can best make use of data, really, by just focusing on the quality aspects of each process. And that obviously in turn then helps us best inform our decision making across the project. I think, as Luke alluded to at the start, obviously prelims are always tight on most projects, so it's how we best make use of our time to deliver these projects. So yeah, that was it in a nutshell, really, of how we kind of used it on the project. Yeah, Luke, do you want to add anything else?
Thank you very much, Luke. Anything else from you?
Just briefly, David. I mean, in terms of outcomes, so I think in the past you talked about being able to sort of optimize processes around the data, and there was some perhaps some sort of softer benefits as well in terms of collaboration with the supply chain and what have you. Is there anything you can add around that, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because this platform, this project management platform, it's all in one place for your supply chain and yourselves. So there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere you're reliant on each one of you. So it did create that kind of collaborative nature across the supply chain, because everyone can see where they are on the project, and visually with trackers and activity trackers and the like. So you can see ahead of you, you can see if you're holding up trades behind, and it really helped with the kind of trade to trade handover. As Luke alluded to, because it kind of populates and automates that through the management platform and the app on site.
Very good, thank you. And you do win a star badge for doing that very succinctly. Gets us a couple of minutes more for questions at the end. I do hold those questions for David and Luke. So I'm now going to invite James Eaton from Competence. I'll go back to sharing the screen, and this will be the next of the 4 presentations. So James, over to you.
Thank you, John. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm James Eaton. I'm the co-founder of Competence. So I think it was number 2 in the list of case studies. So short overview of what it's about. For most of us, I think we've heard of the Building Safety Act, and particularly the requirement of Part 2A and the requirement to demonstrate that people that you put to work on construction sites, which have the necessary skills, knowledge, behaviours and experience to undertake that work. And for many of us, the sort of, it's been around since 2022, so we've seen a massive change in the last 9 months as people start to recognise the importance of this. And at the essence of everything we talk about today, I think you know, technology is one thing, but people are the very essence of the differentiator of whether at the end you make or lose money on projects, there's normally a deep dive and something is about people in that at the end. So we work with McLaren on what was one of the largest decant schemes of people at Chalcott's, regeneration of 4 significant blocks, and our platform was introduced to provide the assurance that we, or McLaren, were the people undertaking that work under the legislation could evidence that they had the necessary competence to undertake the role that they did. And if you flick on, John, and I think the most important thing with any technology platform that you hear about today, it's that the success or otherwise of getting people to adopt things and undertake what many of us on the call might think is just obvious, is that user interface needs to be really right for people to really adopt the things that we'll talk about today. And for us, we've worked really hard to get that right, and we're really pleased that we're seeing some of our clients now starting to really see the benefit of deep technical understanding, and conversations with their individuals around their technical skills is something often that I think for many of us who've been in industry is something that's often missed, and all too often it's focused on obviously project goals, time and money, and that even our performance appraisals are often built around the project goals. So this has started to really see when the clients have landed it, and McLaren are a good example of that, have landed it with the right culture in the organisations, that those conversations are now having with individuals around their technical skills, and then most importantly, where there's a gap identified, what are we going to do with that gap, and how can we close that gap and improve the people that we put to work. So John, if you flip forward one more. So I guess a lot of people will be wrestling significantly with what competency management looks like, and I just thought this was useful to share with everybody on the call and the sort of the wider audience, that there's a lot of work that's been done by groups out there like the Industry Competency Committee and the HSE, and some white papers that were issued prior to Christmas, which starts to give the industry a real good understanding about what good competency management looks like for the future. And you know, we were delighted when that was issued, because I think a lot of organizations, whether that's contractors or design consultants or subcontractors, are really wrestling with possibly not doing much, because the danger is they feel that they want more clarity. And I think these documents, they're out for consultation, they're back. I've not seen that they've been republished. Yeah, I did check this week, but they're unlikely to change much. And I think for anyone on the call who's wrestling with competency management and what good looks like, it's definitely worth a read. And they've really made it simple, and they've built it around 15 core principles. So every principle then says what they mean by it, and it then tries to describe what good looks like for that principle in really practical steps, so real practical actions, which I think what John opened up about at the beginning about what the essence of the GIRIs are, is that, you know, it is about giving people practical steps to move forward in what sometimes might be, you know, seem as massively complex. So, you know, it's not something I've written, it's not something we've written, it's what the industry's written, and it is worth looking at. And for those who are interested, you know, I pulled out 2 or 3 there, what they mean, and then obviously we've got a response to every single principle. But the essence of really highlighting this to everyone was to bring it to light. And if you are wrestling and you're on the call and you don't know what good competency management looks like, read those 2 documents, and they're really good and really strong. Okay, John, I think it's the last. So yeah, and our platform sort of has a bit of setup, obviously, and but the important thing for everyone on the call to understand is there's some really good competency pathways issued by the industry, whether you're a project manager, whether you're a design manager, planning manager, or you're a subcontractor. There's some really good pathways. We suck in any pathway that's been published by the industry or ones that clients create themselves, and then we undertake the assessment, validation, and the action planning all within one platform, which just makes the process simpler and provides a nice evidence platform. Okay, John, just the last flick, conscious of the gold badge that's up for grabs. And just the final slide really is, I think some of us on the call might be sort of quite sport obsessed, and you know, you can understand with sport what they've done with data and understanding their people, and everything you can get is at a click of a button. You can find out pass rate, completion rates, you know, meters covered, you know, everything. And for our industry, you know, why when we assemble, effectively we're doing exactly the same thing. We're assembling really good, competent, skilled teams to deliver exceptional projects. Why would you not be wanting that level of data and information about the people that you assemble in your project teams? Because it's been around for years in sports, and they're using that to enhance performance and deliver different results. And you know, our belief is that, you know, we need to get the industry into that mindset to really understand their people, because it's about delivering exceptional performance and results, but it's also about improving the people that we put to work. And that's it, John. So that's
very well done. You set the bar high. 4 goals, 3 assists, and only an 8.2 rating. What do you have to do to get higher than that? Very good. Thanks very much, James. I am adding Andrew Gascoine from Mabey Hire, and we'll click on with the slides in one moment. I'll stop highlighting James and click on with the slides. Well done, James.
Okay.
So Andrew, the floor is yours. Mabey Hire. Eve is the product, Kelpray and Mabey Hire are the contractors.
Yep, thanks for that, John, and thanks for the introduction there. Yeah, so my name's Andrew Gascoine. I head up the digital engineering team at Mabey Hire, and what I want to use these few minutes to talk about is how we've utilised Eve, which is something we've developed in-house, how we've used it on this particular project. But I don't just want to dwell on this project on its own. I want to showcase how we've utilized it over time and how we've used our customers, the likes of yourselves on the call, to help evolve, develop it, and take it to where we are currently and where we want to go in the future. So you want to go forward, please, John, and the next slide as well. So we looked off the shelf to get something into the business that would enable temporary works to be less of a forgotten place and somewhere that could be communicated easily and quickly. Multiple challenges from the point of model sharing in our direction, understanding digital relationships, maturities, but ultimately getting something that would work for us as well as for you. We launched this back in 2021, and it's come on leaps and bounds to a point now where we feel that it's connecting in places that we didn't think it could to start with, which has really been kind of that added value as we've moved forward. Access is key on that one, but if we just go to the next slide, please, John. The 3 points I want to kind of delve down in a bit more detail is the digital relationship, which has been key. Early engagement, again, very important on our side, showcasing buildability of our solutions, but also working in collaboration. We find that at times there's too much isolation in regards to understanding what it is that we can supply, having an understanding as to the breadth of products that we can also provide at the same time, But also, coming back to that key point earlier, is data, collaboration, part of the supply chain. We don't always get content coming in our direction. That has changed massively in the last 18 months. But if we roll back before that, it wasn't such a thing that we would get. Our solution works really, really well if we've got both the permanent works and our temporary works in that space at the same time. The added value you can take from that is multiplied. If you'd like to go to the next slide, please, John. What I wanted to highlight here is John alluded earlier, there was the report back in 2024. We were part of that in 2024. We highlighted one of our projects in there, which is there on the left. But if I kind of switch that to the right, and we're talking about how we are using these technologies, how we're evolving these technologies, and what we're learning from these technologies. If I look at what we did back then in 2024 for this particular project, and what we're doing currently with the same customer, completely different project, in regards to the relationship that's been built, understanding the workflows that are needed between ourselves as a supply chain, trying to conform to all the different types of file conformation out there, obviously working with multitude of different customers with different needs, but also at the same time looking to see how we can benefit from specific requirements in the way that we do things internally. When I say that, it's understanding how we evolve our own digital solutions and digital tools that we're doing our designs in. But ultimately, what it does is it's improving the efficiencies, it's making the project run smoother, and ultimately it's enabling a wider breadth of people to get involved when they need to be involved. If you'd like to go to the next slide, please, John. So if I go back to the actual project that is showcased in this particular case study, we had a project that was, the model that was supplied to us. However, our design there was a lot of complexity around the design itself. There wasn't really a good understanding as to the build-ups of what we can provide regarding various temporary work builds that we needed to provide. And ultimately what we did was, because we've brought this in-house and we have ownership of this and we can develop it in whichever direction we want, we built bespoke functions into that space, animated specific information that could then be shared with the customer. That could be shared externally to us actually being in those meetings, which we hadn't done previously, but ultimately it meant that it was aiding the decision making early doors. I think one of the key elements on this side was how our design solution could do what was needed. How was the build up enabling the challenges on site to be met, and ultimately it was really, really well received, and from that it's enabled us to also evolve our own functionalities to offer this more so in the future. If you want to go to the next one, please, John. And then working in collaborations, this is the third point that I just wanted to pick up on. So initially when we brought this to the industry and we were showcasing and using it on projects, it's enabled us to also go beyond that, look at training, efficiencies in delivery, people on site, access to it, and understanding what it is that we're putting forward. We're also looking to tag in product literature, user animations, all that held in one space. Therefore, if there's a question that's needed, you can get the answer pretty quickly. It's improving the project delivery itself. And then looking at where we're going in the future, I've only highlighted embodied carbon. All our designs now come with an embodied carbon percentage. That's one element that is now looking to be put into that same space. So again, we're trying to adjust to design needs, project needs, and how we can evolve and adapt to that. I'm going to go to the next one, please, John. So out of all that, it's also looking at the lessons learned in regards to in-house development. So complexity of design drives improvements. What I mean by this is that Eve itself talks to our design system internally. So when the engineer's doing a design, they're using content created internally by us. Because of the complexities, it's also identifying some of our content needs to do things differently. So therefore, it's driving improvements. It's enabling those designs to be done quicker. It's enabling a better understanding of what we're putting forward. Adaptability to evolve. We've created this in essence that it will never be finished, because we know that the construction industry changes day in, day out. We need to make sure that we're adaptable to that and flexible to that. So that's why we've decided to go down this direction. Accessibility and usability, that's something we're growing. Ultimately, we felt a laptop was the best way to showcase this. Now we're looking at other ways to do that, digital devices, opening up the platform for people to use that on site. And then awareness of Eve. This is something that continues to be needed, is the opportunity to understand what it is that this program can do. And it continues to grow on that side. So again, if you want to know more information about this, there is plenty of information about that. You just need to ask. And then training, cross-productivity, capability, efficiencies in design. We're actually taking these design solutions and building training academies, whereby it enables people to understand the buildability of our kit. So ultimately, we're looking at full circle, not just from a project delivery point of view. We're looking to see how we can use that content in other ways within the business. Next one, please, John. I think that brings me to the end. I think the next one is just a thank you. So again, I wanted to make sure I kept within that time limit.
You've done great, Andrew. I wanted to ask you just two brief questions.
Yep.
The first is, you're different to the other three presenters, which are combined, separate contractor and technology company. You've decided to develop Eve in-house. So just say a little bit about that decision and the challenges of building something yourself. But also, in case people are interested in Eve, is it available to other organisations, or are you keeping it close to your chest as part of your crown jewels, Andrew?
No, great question. So ultimately, we did look outside to understand what there was out there that we could potentially use. But with temporary works being so niche in what's needed, we felt that we needed to develop it in-house. We did at the very beginning utilize an external company at the same time to do some of the content creation. That changed very quickly, because what was being delivered to us they didn't fully understand what it was that our kit needed to do. So ultimately, we brought everything in-house. So what that's enabling us to do is look at the different needs. We have a wide range of product offerings, whether it be from groundworks, below ground, above ground, propping, bridging, formwork, false work. So there's a lot to consider to make sure that they're all encapsulated in that one space. In regards to Eve, it's there to be utilized on every design. However, it will be triaged. There has to be added value for us to enable us to use it. That could be sensitivity of product of the actual project. It could be complexities of getting on and off the site. It could be in regards to sensitivity around the project, i.e. planning consultations, the local areas. So there are definitely a tick box to say whether we use it, but ultimately this is something that we offer in our design package.
Thank you. So I'm now adding James Ellis from Visilean. I'll let you go back into the background, Andrew, and I'll go back to sharing the screen, and then it's all yours. James, give me a moment. So the Visilean project was a data center project in Clonee, Ireland, and the owner contractor was Mace, and Visilean was the technology provider. So James, the floor is yours.
Thanks, John. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm James Ellis. I am head of sales for Visilean. If you can move on, John, and I'll just explain in the detail on the next slides as we go.
Let's go.
Yeah, thank you. So the first slide is just to let you know what we are first. We're a digital collaborative platform, which is quite a broad example. But if you go to the next slide, John, I'll explain a bit more. So Visilean itself was developed as a production controls process. So everybody that's planning in every line of business in construction, they're planning, and then what happens is there's delays in the program, and we know that there's always an overrun. So our solution that we've done before I come on to the case study was we developed a gap between planning and production controls. So we built a platform that was built on lean principles, lean methodology, but also with the ability, not mandatory, to integrate with BIM visualization, allowing us to import any schedule from P6, ASTA, MSP into the platform, and then allow us to be able to get end users updating progress from the site, which also then leads into visualization, if you wish, with 2D, 3D, 4D BIM, to be able to visualize this and also be able to see the tracking of the health and the dashboards. So it's just a little bit of an understanding. If you can go to the next slide, John, please. So the story of this was actually a data center project. It was Mace. It was with Meta, Facebook. It was actually done in 2019. And the story of this is that they'd actually already built 2 data halls exactly the same size, prefabricated off-site manufacturing. Both, all of them were around 650 million euros each data center. And they'd, like I said, they'd built 2 already. They did the first one using traditional planning, using P6. They used BIM, BIM with models and visualization, lots of Excel, lots of different platforms. On the second build, they carried on using the same method of the software tools, but they also introduced sticky notes and tried to educate a lean aspect of this. And on the third data center, they introduced Visilean as a digital platform, where we came in and helped them create their production controls with a more efficient process. So if you move on to the next screen, John, please. So we went from the workers learning what sticky notes were and understanding a bit of lean. And because it was such a big, complex data center project with nearly 10 different data centers being built, they went from sticky notes to a digital platform, which we helped set this up and got everybody collaborating using a gold command room. This will allowing them to see different platform, different elements of the software, or visualizing with a 2D or 3D and so on, looking at the plan. But they went from traditional sticky notes and scenarios to their collaborative planning sessions, where we came in and helped them set up a complete production controls process, working in a different manner to what they had been currently doing. So if you can go to the next slide, John. We actually took them from their traditional planning with Excels and sticky notes, and we were able to deliver an import from their P6 program directly into the platform. Instead of looking at that bottom-down approach and having these disparate systems, we were able to show them what was coming up in swim lanes based on the zones or the workers or the trades themselves. But also they had the integration, which we've done with the BIM model, which really helped with visualization for end users. Not mandatory to have the BIM aspect, but they wanted to use it in this manner. What it was allowing them to see was like digital sticky notes, but as the workers were updating progress on their mobile out on site, this was then providing an update and changing color in the systems to allow it to visually be easy to see that information. Okay, so this was also then being fed back to the schedule as well. So instead of actually updating programs, updating sticky notes, Excels, getting updates, chasing back, they were able to get this workflow working in real-time production controls in a collaboration between all stakeholders. If you can go on to the next slide, John, please. What we specialize in and how we did this is not just about getting people to collaborate and using a digital platform. We helped educate them to work in an 8-week, 4-week, 2-week look aheads into daily activity briefing. What we're able to do was, with our platform, we were able to start looking 8 weeks ahead. And instead of saying, you know, are you ready to start next week? We were looking 8 weeks ahead and mapping constraints in as early as 8 weeks to say, is there a permit to work required? Is there a method statement? Do you need to hire materials? Do you need a sign-off client approval? So we were able to map this into the platform 8 weeks ahead. Then we were able to go into a 4-week look ahead where they were breaking the activities down into more granular detail, assigning it to trades, to locations, to end users. And this information was then updating, giving the onus on the end user to update them and collaborate by using the push-pull mechanism of Lean to say, I am ready to start my activity on time, which was, we were able to prevent any delays in starting on time. but also the whole process as they're updating would update the activities, show it on the screen, but they were also able to do their collaborative planning sessions on these digital screens as well. What would also happen is the workers would then update progress, they would complete the activities, and it's got a seamless handover to QA and QC for the quality handover. So once we mapped the constraints, we got everybody starting on time. They then went and did the activities. When they completed their tasks via the mobile, it would seamlessly send it to the handover team to go and quality check the work. And then once it had been quality checked, it updated in the platform and it would notify the next person in the chain that you can start your activity early. So we were optimizing all of these processes and collaborations with all stakeholders. Next slide, John, please. By doing this, we've got a case study which I can talk about, this case study, but in detail. This was the benchmark. They actually recorded how long it took to build the first one, which was 21 weeks. The second build, they created and developed and with the lean sticky notes, and they built the second one in 16 weeks. And on the third build using Visilean, they actually completed it in 9 weeks. They saved 60% reduction in defects, 40% improvement in program efficiency, and they actually saved a staggering 45% reduction in labor spend. We always get told, yeah, great, but learning curves, built project, the data center before, etc., etc. But that proves that we got all stakeholders, all trades on board using a new platform very quickly, updating progress, which allowed them to all adopt this process. And all the challenges that you can see, making do, we went to checklists, information chaos from multiple data, one single source of information. Latency in the progress, we were giving real-time updates. Transparency, we set up collaborative planning, we created dashboards. Delayed handover, none, because it was push notified. They were notified immediately to go and check the work, to see if it had been quality checked, and so on. And then we had the visual tracking as well, which actually complemented and helped trades look at where they're going to be working rather than just looking at sticky notes on a screen. Yeah, that's fine, John. You can move on to the next one. That's fine. That's good timing. What we actually achieved was not just all about the staggering results, which it was staggering, to be fair, but we actually provided a common platform for the entire supply chain. You imagine all these different stakeholders of trades, they all have a different program of work at their head office. We were able to get P6, ASTA, MSP, Excel, using in one single source of data, replace the Excel that they were doing, no single sources of data. We actually got 5 data center campuses on board, all with their own P6 schedules, all collaborating, pulling into dashboards and telling them where they are in real time. And we replaced a lot of human error because no one had to go back and update the schedule or update the Excel or a sticky note or another element. All of this was streamlined and adopted by all stakeholders. Next slide, John. Kevin McHugh is the gentleman that actually wrote the case study. It wasn't Visilean just prompting and asking for a case study. He did a detailed paper because he was doing his lean, he was studying lean at the time, and he was the one that benchmarked this exactly down to the T in a 4 or 5 page document. So if anybody does want to see the full detailed case study, I'll happily share that. Next slide, John, please. Since doing that, we've now span off into over 20 data center projects around the world. Not only that, we've now been able to upsell this not just to general contractors, we've actually got the clients buying the product and mandating the general contractors to use it because it is a benefit to the client owner that we've got everything being updated. Instead of getting an update every 4 weeks from the contractor and then seeing that we're behind, they can see on the day exactly in real time where we are on program with Power BI dashboards and so on, but it's pulling it from different programs of work and being able to track and manage project controls. So it tracks every stakeholder in that process, from clients to contractors to consultants to subcontractors and so on. Next slide, John, please. We are not just on the back end of that, just working on case studies, on data centers, sorry. We're now in over 20 plus countries. We are working in every sector. We're even working in pre-design, design, pre-construction and construction, whether it's very small projects to giga complex projects. We've got this working in many different ways. And I think there's one more slide, John, I think, and I'm done. Like I said, here's a few more customers that we are working with. And that's me.
James, thank you. Question for you, and then we'll open it up to everybody for questions. Data centers does seem to be the bright spot in construction, on time delivery. and some really good processes and practices. Why isn't it as simple as bringing best practice from data centers into other aspects of construction, particularly infrastructure? Why can't we do that and magic up performance in other areas?
Don't get me started, John. Honestly, I've banged on the door. The process that we've got, Digital Realty are the client that we're working with, and they've now mandated this. We've been able to get them to complete on time, on budget with their projects, and we're now even working with some general contractors in Europe where they're looking to complete ahead of time as well, based on our new process that we've built with them. I've been knocking on HS2, I've been National Highways England, TfL, all of these. It's such a big monster. Who's going to make that change happen? But I am going to keep going on that journey, because it predominantly, if they really built into it and looked at it, they could have an update of every single project, every single phase in real time, without having to wait every 4 weeks. So it can be adopted. It's just about how we break the doors down.
Well, and in fairness, the challenge of infrastructure is first of a kind and very complex projects. And your slide showed how data center 1, data center 2, data center 3, the learning curve benefits were being captured because they were doing similar things over and over that we don't get so much in infrastructure. So fair enough. But thank you for the answer. Susan, do we have any questions? If not, I've got a couple more I could fire at our guests.
Fire away while people are warming up. We're just waiting. Everyone's being a bit shy at the moment, so yeah, fire away.
Yes. So similar question really to James Eaton around the applicability of competence. Is it similar in the building environment where we've got sort of Grenfell and duty holders into infrastructure and other spaces, or are the sort of regulatory side of nuclear and rail and things very different?
I think change is only driven here in our industry through legislation, unfortunately, most of the change. So I think they're waking up in the building is the last 9 months to a year. Opportunity to infrastructure, not, you know, the value part of understanding your people's competency, just not even registered in that area of infrastructure. And I think you know, the nuclear, the more highly regulated, have some element of what we're talking about today, but I think they've been built off very I don't just mean the platform and the technology, I just think the approach is exceedingly not as fresh as what's come out in our industry, in the building industry, recently. So I think there's definitely a way of pushing back into the nuclear industry, you know, the highly regulated, you know, rail, things like that, and freshen up the process and the speed that technology can bring to this process. But I think they're built on probably very, you know, I won't say outdated, but older approaches to trying to solve the problem.
There's a question for you in the chat from Neil Abbott. I'll let you read that because there's acronyms and things I'll just mispronounce, and ask Luke a question whilst we're doing that, which is around sort of innovation fatigue. Are you finding in your conversations with clients that they go, oh God, not another digital tool? You know, we've got digital tools coming out of our ears, and how do we tell the good from the bad and the ugly? Is innovation fatigue a thing, or are people still fresh and wanting to change?
I'm not sure if fatigue is the right word. I mean, certainly I've had conversations, you know, at exhibitions, events and things, and the leading question is, tell me what it doesn't do so I can help to differentiate and all these different tools that I've been introduced to today. But I think it's just about, you know, certainly, you know, when you speak to any of the tier 1 contractors, they have these huge, you know, estates of different technologies that they're trying to consolidate and trying to grapple with. So, you know, we're fortunate in the sense that there's always overlap between different tools, but you know, we're carving out a bit of a niche and a bit of a category that helps that conversation. But yeah, for sure, it's a challenge. You know, when you speak to some of these multinationals and they've got over 100 different apps, sometimes 200 different apps, you know, in their stack that they're trying to manage and standardize. And of course they have that constant balance to try and give their projects, you know, the autonomy and the control that they need to deliver as they should, whilst aligning with the you know, the business objectives and priorities. So
Yeah,
as I say, fatigue probably isn't the right word, but it's a challenge for sure.
And the integration between all those tens and tens of different apps, data entry galore. James, so the question is about the ongoing super skill sector skills work being undertaken across the industry, with CITB defining the SKEB for specific roles.
Yeah, I mean, we've already sucked in. So everything's built around SKEB. Full stop. That was how we set the platform up. But we've already taken some of the CITB work and pulled it into the platform, so it's available. So we've tested it out through both the I think it was the site supervisor one as one that we've pulled in, and then there's obviously the industry other sub working groups that are working at another level around things like installation of plasterboard and down into the sub supply chain skill set. So I guess what the answer is, we want to take everything that's being produced by the likes of the CITB and other associations of project managers have done a really good competency pathway, and just make it more accessible, simpler to use, and you know, that validation part, and then the really interesting thing that everyone's missed from, whether it's, I'm not saying maybe the CITB haven't missed it, but often the criticality of what we're bringing in and what skills you're looking at, the issue becomes that validation process and how the quality of that validation process works with the individual after they've done their assessment, and we're working hard to really help. Often it's the line manager or the sector or a sector specialist in those organisations, you know, having had the conversation with the individual and identified that there is a skills gap, is what is the action that arises out of the back of that. And you know, it can be so many different things. It can be a video, it could be reading a procedural document on the management system, it could be mentoring, it could be going out to another site that's done it. So we're trying to give effectively within our platform prompts to people. So you've got this gap, this is a number of suggested ways you could close that gap. So yeah, so the simple answer is we're not writing pathways, we are taking industry published provisioned into the platform. Yeah,
thank you for the question. I've got one final question which I'll direct initially at least to Andrew. Goes back to my introductory remarks around my expectation that there would be more best practice around AI. We wrote our AI report for GIRI, came out last July. And Andrew, how are you as a digital lead for Mabey addressing AI, maybe in Eve, but perhaps more generally? Is it real here and now? Is it sometime in the future, or is it kind of a pipe dream and never?
It's a great question, John. If I take where we sit on this, so it's something that we are investing in. At the moment, where that sits, we're still basically finding out. Cutting a long story short, we felt that we had identified paths that this would aid on in different parts of the business, and I'm not just talking about Eve, I'm talking about processes, whether it sits within operations, whether it sits within the project development teams, within the functions of the engineering teams. But I think ultimately it comes back to the point of making sure that the information that it's deriving those answers from is the right information. And I think that we we still need to have a understanding that what it answers is actually correct, is actually what we're looking for. Temporary works, you know, you can't question safety. You can't question what it is that could be. It needs to be what should be and has to be. So I think we felt we were further forward. After reviewing it, we've probably said, hang on a minute, there's further development, observation, and questioning as to what do we want to derive from it, and where can we put that into the business. But we are on that journey. Ultimately, we have our IT team that are heading that up, and different stakeholders from within the business are feeding into it at the same time. Do I think it's going to make a difference in regards to what we're doing? Absolutely. But where that will actually impact, I'm not too sure just yet. I think there's a lot that still needs to be kind of worked out, because it's like anything. It's never going to say to you it can't do it. That's not good enough for us. We need to make sure that the information that's coming from it is correct and right.
Got to be correct and provably and traceably correct. No, I get that. Trust. Very good. I'm going to close the meeting now, unless Susan wants to do so. With warm thanks and appreciation
John,
to
sorry.
James and David and Luke and Andrew.
John, we did just have one last question in the chat about construction product information. I don't know if we've got time to squeeze that in.
I saw that had come in just at the late moment. I wasn't sure quite who within the 4 speakers would be able to speak about construction product manufacturers, but if anybody wants to have a quick tilt at that before we close, you're very welcome to. Is there any thoughts for construction product manufacturers as to what additional data should be considered to include alongside our systems to help with these solutions? Not sure would be my response. Sorry, Martin.
Just to say, we are working with the code for construction product information, and we will likely be having a webinar with them coming up. So it might be something that we'll pick up with them and maybe explore in more detail in that webinar.
Might be easier in that context. Okay, thanks again. Physical or virtual appreciation. Oh, Cliff, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to say we've got we're also talking to GS1 UK, who are all about putting QR codes on all products so that they're all monitored against a standard. So yeah, we're in that space, Martin, but not at this meeting. Cheers.
Thanks everybody. Cheerio. Goodbye.